Hey everyone, this is Michael again, and welcome to the AEW Dynamite review. Dynamite tonight was from the Enmarket Arena in Savannah, Georgia, and this was Dynamite's week 1 of Fyter Fest, and next week is going to be week 2. Next week we're going to see Jericho versus Eddie Kingston in a barbed wire match, which that is the match to look forward to next week on Dynamite for week 2 of Fyter Fest. Cannot wait for that match. Hopefully, at the end of that match we get, a big explosion happen. But really looking forward to Jericho and Eddie Kingston in a barbed wire match. It's going to be very bloody, I could tell. But Dynamite tonight for week 1 of Fyter Fest. I thought it was a very good show. It was very enjoyable. It was a lot better than last week's Dynamite, which last week's Dynamite felt like I was watching 2 hours of AEW Dark. That's what Dynamite felt like last week. Although this week was an improvement over last week's show. This was a much better show tonight, considering it's week 1 of Fyter Fest. So tonight on Dynamite's week 1 of Fyter Fest, we saw Warlow versus Orange Cassidy for the TNT Championship. Jon Moxley was in action and he had taken on Konosuke Takeshita. We had Luchasaurus versus Griff Garrison. 2 former best friends went at it. Claudio Castagnoli versus Jake Hager. And we also had Serena Deeb versus Anna Jay. And the main event, the AEW World Tag Team Championship was on the line. The Young Bucks defend the titles against Keith Lee and Swerve Strickland, and Ricky Starks and Powerhouse Hobbs. But overall, Dynamite, very good show tonight for week 1 of Fyter Fest. And week 2 for next week is looking very good. Especially, like I said, the match that everyone is looking forward to, the barbed wire match between Kingston and Jericho. But let's jump right into the review. Dynamite week 1 of Fyter Fest kicked off with Warlow versus Orange Cassidy. And to me, this match was very random because we have 2 baby faces in the ring, and we had, the comedy points there with Orange Cassidy. But Warlow ended up coming out, and then Orange Cassidy along with Trent and Chucky T. Match started off with Warlow, and he ended up trying to rip off, So Dynamite's week 1 of Fyter Fest opened up with the TNT Championship on the line. Warlow defended the title against Orange Cassidy, and I thought this was a very random match to put on the card, because you have 2 guys in Warlow and Orange Cassidy, and they're both baby faces. So you're like to yourself, all right, so both of them are baby faces. Who are you going to root for? There's a lot of people that like Warlow. There's a lot of people who love Orange Cassidy. He has a big following. So you basically like to yourself who to root for. And you did have some comedy aspects here from Orange Cassidy. Orange Cassidy ended up coming out along with Chuck Taylor and Trent Beretta. So the match started off with Orange Cassidy. He had his hands in his pockets. Warlow ended up ripping Orange Cassidy's hands out of his pockets, and then he ended up pulling his straps down. Orange Cassidy responded by putting the straps back onto Warlow, and then Orange Cassidy ended up mocking Warlow's pose. So this is where the bits of the comedy aspects of Orange Cassidy kicked in. Warlow almost ended up getting the powerbomb onto Orange Cassidy, but Cassidy ended up responding with her Karana, only for Warlow to land it, and he ended up walking it off. So Chuck Taylor and Trent, they were messing around on the outside. We had Chuck Taylor end up trying to put a chainsaw into the ring. So Chuck Taylor and Trent's antics backfired, because when the referee ended up seeing the chainsaw in the ring, he ended up ejecting both Chucky T and Trent. So Orange Cassidy ended up attempting to deliver the orange punch to Warlow, but he ended up getting caught. And we had Orange Cassidy end up hitting the slow kicks to Warlow. And then Warlow ended up charging out Orange Cassidy. Cassidy ended up ducking, and it sent Warlow out of the ring. Warlow ended up catching a dive from Orange Cassidy, only for Orange Cassidy to send him into the ring post, but Warlow blocked it. Warlow blocked himself from going straight into the ring post. So then Warlow reached underneath the ring, and he pulled out Danhausen. So Danhausen, he was trying to curse Warlow, but Danhausen didn't want to curse Warlow, so Warlow ended up letting Danhausen leave. And Orange Cassidy came in and rocked Warlow with the orange punch. So both guys ended up getting back into the ring. Orange Cassidy was looking to go for another orange punch, but Warlow reversed it with a belly-to-belly throw that sent Orange Cassidy out of the ring on the other side. So Cassidy ended up diving from the top rope. He got caught by Warlow, but Orange Cassidy ended up wriggling out and delivered some chop blocks to Warlow. Orange Cassidy wanted to hit the beach break, but Warlow ended up setting him up for the powerbomb, which Orange Cassidy managed to counter with a DT. So we have Warlow end up connecting with an F10, and Orange Cassidy end up kicking out of that. So Orange Cassidy became the first guy to kick out of the F10. Nobody kicked out of the F10 before. So Warlow followed up with a powerbomb attempt, but Orange Cassidy ended up fighting out of it. He ended up trying to block the attempt by Warlow. Orange Cassidy ended up getting out with a Hurricanrana, and he followed up with a Tope Suicida on Warlow, as Warlow ended up getting sent into the ring post. So Orange Cassidy was trying to go for the dive again, but Warlow ended up catching Cassidy, and Cassidy ended up reversing that with a Stun Dog Millionaire into the orange punch. And then we had Orange Cassidy hit the beach break on Warlow, and Cassidy ended up going for the cover. Warlow was able to kick out. Orange Cassidy was looking to go for another orange punch, and Warlow ended up catching it, and immediately Warlow hit a powerbomb on Orange Cassidy. So then Warlow ended up going for the cover, and there you go, Warlow ended up winning the match, retaining the TNT Championship. Post-match, Warlow picked up Orange Cassidy, and Warlow and Cassidy end up showing respect for each other, and that was basically that. But overall, it was a very random match, but it was still a good match, in my opinion. I mean, just you have two baby faces, going at it. So you would think it to yourself, who would you root for? So that's what was going through my mind, watching the match. Like, who am I supposed to root for? Am I supposed to root for Warlow or Orange Cassidy? But still, it was a good match, but just very random, in my opinion. Very random match. And obviously, Warlow was going to win the match. And then we had Chris Jericho. Chris Jericho ended up coming out. He got on the mic. Jericho ended up saying that he stands before us as Chris Jericho, the living legend, and Eddie Kingston's superior. Jericho ended up saying that Eddie's said every drop of blood in their upcoming match is for his friends. He kept saying being friends with Eddie is a worse curse than anything Danhausen can even conjure up. He kept saying Ortiz, he got his head shaved and lost his dignity. He then mentioned Santana, taken out at Blood and Guts. Brian Danielson, taken out at Anarchy in the Arena. And then Jericho was like, and then there's Ruby Soho, with a mangled hand and a crushed career. So Jericho was like, oh, I know that's Eddie's Ruby. So then Jericho was like, why barbed wire? Now he knows Eddie's a mark for Terry Funk and Sabu. But he was like, how many barbed wire matches has he been in? Jericho ended up saying that he first won the barbed wire match in Canada. The first barbed wire match when he was 22. And even though the pain was unbearable, deep inside, Jericho ended up saying that he felt pleasured. So Jericho was like, next week, Eddie Kingston's not facing Chris Jericho. He's facing the Pain Maker, who is undefeated in AEW. So Jericho was like, this match is it. There will be no more excuses. And deep down inside, Eddie knows he'll never be at his level. So Jericho was like, if you want blood, Eddie Kingston, you got it. He was like, every drop of blood he sheds is one of his sins. He'll make a flood of Eddie Kingston's blood so huge that Noah would be jealous. So Jericho ended up saying that Eddie's not a liar. He's a loser. So that was what Jericho had to say. But this was a very good promo from Jericho here. To set up the hype for him and Eddie Kingston's barbed wire match next week on Dynamite, which I am so looking forward to. It's going to be a crazy physical match there. It's going to be bloody. And like I said, hopefully at the end of the match or somehow we get a explosion happen. Because, these barbed wire matches, they have explosions when, one guy hits into the barbed wire. So hopefully we see that. And then we went to Eddie Kingston backstage. He was backstage with Ruby Soho and Ortiz. Eddie Kingston ended up saying that Jericho is going to pay with every ounce of his blood. And he will see him at the barbed wire everywhere match. So Eddie Kingston was like to Jericho, look at what you did to Ruby Soho, which we saw Ruby Soho's, hand, taped up. And he was like, look at what you did to Ortiz. Ortiz took over his hat, and it looks like Ortiz's hair is growing back, fast. And Eddie Kingston, his face was all up in the camera, just speaking to Jericho. So pretty much that was basically that. But, good little backstage, promo from Eddie Kingston there. And then we went to Konosuke Takeshita versus Jon Moxley. This was a Interim AEW World Championship Eliminator match. And this was a very good match here. Really enjoyed this match. Tony Khan needs to give Takeshita a full AEW contract. The guy is that impressive and entertaining in the ring. More Takeshita on AEW television. So the match started off with Takeshita and Moxley end up blocking up. They end up going back and forth, delivering some shots to each other. Takeshita ended up hitting a leg lariat to Moxley and then a chop. So Moxley ended up firing back with a pile driver to Takeshita. And Moxley followed up with a submission. So Takeshita and Moxley end up spilling to the ring apron. They started trading forearm strikes. Takeshita ended up coming out on top and delivered a German suplex to Moxley on the apron. So Takeshita ended up trying to get back to the ring, and it gave Moxley a chance to nail Takeshita with a boot to the face, and that busted open Takeshita. Takeshita was bleeding. And then Moxley followed it up by biting Takeshita's head and started laying out some chops to Takeshita. So both Takeshita and Moxley end up on the top turnbuckle. Moxley ended up pushing his elbow into Takeshita and followed up with a suplex, which got a near fall. Takeshita then ended up fighting back with some strikes to Moxley. He bounced off the ropes to take Moxley down. And Takeshita followed up with a big kick in the corner to Moxley. So Takeshita then ran to the turnbuckle to hit another kick. And then Moxley followed it up and elbowed Takeshita. So Takeshita fired back with a brainbuster to Moxley. So Takeshita was going for the frog splash. Moxley ended up getting his knees up. And once again, both guys, they started trading forearms at each other. Takeshita ended up connecting with a hurricanrana to Moxley, and he followed that up by diving over the top rope to take Moxley down. So we had Takeshita end up delivering the frog splash, and Takeshita connected on Moxley. So Takeshita ended up going for the cover, and Moxley ended up kicking out. Moxley then ended up attempting to set Takeshita in a sleeper hold, but Takeshita reversed it and ended up hitting a Blue Thunder Bomb to Moxley, and Takeshita ended up going for the cover. Moxley kicked out too. Moxley ended up blocking the jumping knee from Takeshita, and Moxley hit the paradigm shift. So Moxley then was going for the Death Rider. Takeshita reversed that with a rolling elbow, and then Takeshita laid Moxley out with a German suplex, and Takeshita ended up going for the cover again, and Moxley kicked out. Moxley then ended up hitting some headbutts, and then he connected with the Death Rider, and Moxley followed the Death Rider up with the Bulldog Choke, and there you go. Moxley ended up winning the match. And it was good to hear, as always, William Regal on commentary for the match. But overall, this was a very good match. And like I said, Tony Khan needs to hand Takeshita a full AEW contract. So Takeshita definitely deserves it. Takeshita definitely deserves a AEW contract after what we're seeing from him in the ring. Let's get Takeshita more on AEW television. The guy is just entertained in the ring, and he's great at what he does. So then we got a video package from the House of Black. So we saw Brody King and Buddy Matthews, Malachi Black, and Julia Hart. So pretty much basically this video package was, them talking to Darby Allin. Brody King ended up saying that he didn't need praise and that he is getting his by taking Darby. So pretty much that was basically that. He's just, wanting to take Darby's praise. And then we had Christian Cage. Christian ended up coming out along with Luchasaurus. Christian got on the mic, and Brian Pillman Jr. and Griff Garrison were in the ring. Christian mocked Brian Pillman Jr.'s haircut, ended up saying that he had a father like Jungle Boy, but he was a legend in the business. So Christian was basically talking about the late, great Brian Pillman. So Christian ended up claiming that Pillman was average at best, but he does respect him. He ended up saying that he doesn't mind speaking on Brian's behalf, saying he'd be appalled that Pillman Jr. was his child. So Christian ended up saying Griff Garrison annoyed him with the picture he posted. And he ended up asking Luchasaurus if he looks like Jungle Boy. If Griff Garrison looks like Jungle Boy. And on the screen we saw, a picture of Jungle Boy. And then we had the match, Luchasaurus versus Griff Garrison. Squash match. Luchasaurus delivered 2 choke slams to Griff Garrison. And then Luchasaurus locked in the tar pit. And that was that. Luchasaurus ended up winning the match. Post-match, we had Luchasaurus end up headbutting Brian Pillman Jr. And Luchasaurus end up putting Griff Garrison on the timekeeper's table. Brian Pillman Jr. end up getting chokeslammed by Luchasaurus on top of Griff Garrison. And the table didn't break, so that was a botch. So Luchasaurus ended up chokeslamming Brian Pillman Jr. again on top of Griff Garrison. And both guys went crashing through the timekeeper's table. And pretty much that was basically that. So Luchasaurus is just going to be having squash matches until Jungle Boy ends up returning. And so then we're going to have Jungle Boy versus Luchasaurus. And then Jungle Boy will move on to Christian Cage. So it's going to be squash match after squash match for Luchasaurus to destroy, jobber stars until Jungle Boy ends up returning. And when Jungle Boy ends up returning, he's going to get a huge pop from the crowd. Jungle Boy is going to be very over when he returns. So then we had the Jericho Appreciation Society backstage. We had Matt Menard, Angelo Parker there, and they ended up saying that they don't like cages because during the Jericho and Eddie Kingston Barbed Wire Everywhere match, they're going to be locked in a shark cage. So the only reason why they're doing that is because Warner Bros. Discovery wanted AEW to do something for Shark Week, from what I heard. So that's why they're going to have a shark tank hanging. So they end up saying that they don't like cages. And Daniel Garcia, he was also there. Daniel Garcia ended up challenging Wheeler Yuta to a ROH Pure Championship match at the ROH show, that's coming up. So that was what they had to say. So it's going to be, probably Wheeler Yuta versus Daniel Garcia for the ROH Pure Championship at the next ROH show, which will be Death Before Dishonor. So that should be a pretty good match there. So then we saw Hangman Adam Page. He was being interviewed by Tony Schiavone backstage. So the Dark Order end up appearing. They end up saying that they're pissed off. So the Dark Order end up challenging the House of Black to a match because John Silver end up saying, they're pissed off on Hangman Adam Page's behalf. So we're going to get that match this Friday on Rampage. So it's going to be the House of Black versus the Dark Order. So then we had Claudio Castagnoli versus Jake Hager. Very good match this was. This was very entertaining. It was a physical matchup between these two. These two were former friends, and they were once known as the Real Americans when they were in WWE. And they had their associate, Zeb Coulter, a.k.a. Dutch Mantel. And they were a good pairing for the Real Americans. They were a good tag team together, Hager and Claudio. You know, the whole famous, "We the people." So, but the match started off with Claudio. He ended up hitting a huge uppercut to Hager and then delivered a big boot to Hager, which sent Hager out to the floor. Hager came back and delivered a clothesline to Claudio on the floor. Hager was looking to go for the Hager bomb. Claudio ended up reversing that, and he set Hager in the position for the 619. So Claudio ended up hitting that, doing his booyaka, booyaka, Rey Mysterio with the 619. So Hager ended up getting back on track in the match. He ended up delivering some huge shots to Claudio. Claudio ended up taking Hager down by going for his knee. So Claudio followed up with a bulldog. Claudio then ended up driving Hager into the turnbuckle pad. As Claudio was going to the top rope, Hager ended up knocking him and then hit a double leg from the top turnbuckle. Hager then launched Claudio across the ring and followed up with a Hager bomb, which Hager ended up going for the cover and Claudio kicked out. So Claudio came back and delivered a vertical suplex to Hager. And then he ended up hitting a few punches. Hager came back and delivered a boot to Claudio. So then we had Claudio end up drop kicking Hager out of the ring. Claudio then charged at Hager with a huge uppercut on the barricade. So both guys went back in the ring, and Claudio followed up with a diving crossbody, and he ended up going for the cover, to which Hager ended up kicking out too. So we had Claudio end up transitioning into a Scorpion Deathlock on Hager. And then we had Matt Menard and Angelo Parker. They ended up making their way down. Claudio was distracted by Menard and Parker. So Hager ended up planting Claudio down to the mat. And Hager ended up going for the cover, to which Claudio ended up kicking out. Hager was looking to go for the ankle lock on Claudio. Claudio blocked it, and then he ended up hitting the suplex. And then Menard and Parker, once again, got involved. They were distracting Claudio. So Claudio ended up seeing Hager and then hit the Swiss Alps on Hager. And then Claudio ended up going for the cover. And there you go. Claudio Castagnoli ended up winning the match. Overall, very good match this was. Both Claudio and Hager did good here. The wrestling was awesome from these two. Like I said, these were two former friends, two former tag team partners when they were in WWE. When they were the Real Americans. But a very good match this was. Very physical matchup here. And Claudio still continuing his undefeated streak so far since he came to AEW. And then we saw Lexi Nair. Lexi Nair was backstage and she was interviewing Hook. So, as she was interviewing Hook, he did not say anything. Hook just ignored Lexi Nair and left. He did not say one word to Lexi Nair. So, pretty much that was basically that. So then we had Thunder Rosa and Toni Storm, as they're calling them, Thunderstorm. And they were there with Britt Baker and Jamie Hayter. Thunder Rosa ended up saying that it was exciting to tag with Toni Storm and that they're ready to face anybody. So that led to Britt Baker and Jamie Hayter appearing. Britt Baker ended up saying that they're back and they know the carnage that a thunderstorm can storm. And Jamie ended up saying they're well versed in it. So Britt Baker ended up telling Tony Schiavone to carry a sandbag for a month because Baker ended up handing it over to Tony Schiavone. So pretty much that was basically that. So then we had Serena Deeb versus Anna Jay. And this was a decent match here. Serena Deeb started off the match. She ended up dropping Anna Jay with a shoulder tackle. Anna Jay then ended up in a reversal flatliner to Serena Deeb. So Serena Deeb then ended up locking in a submission on Anna Jay. Jay ended up getting out with a pinfall attempt. Anna Jay then locked in the Queenslayer, to which Serena Deeb ended up stepping through the ropes, and she ended up providing a whiplash to Anna Jay, to which Serena Deeb followed up with a twisted neck breaker. So Serena Deeb ended up faking diving out of the ring. She then slammed Anna Jay face first onto the ring apron, and she then ended up hitting a chop to Anna Jay. Anna Jay fought back with a chop of her own, and Serena Deeb then ended up raking the eyes of Anna Jay. Serena Deeb continued her attack on Anna Jay by dropping her onto the second rope. So pretty much Serena Deeb locked in another submission on Anna Jay, and Serena Deeb was mocking the Dark Order. Serena Deeb then ended up hitting a backstabber to Anna Jay, which Anna Jay fired back with some forearms of her own, taking down Serena Deeb. Anna Jay ended up connecting with a Northern Light suplex to Serena Deeb, and she ended up going for the cover, to which Deeb ended up kicking out. And then Anna Jay locked in the Queenslayer again. Serena Deeb managed to get out of the Queenslayer. So at the end of the match, Serena Deeb ended up getting out of the Queenslayer again that Anna Jay tried to lock Serena Deeb in. So Serena Deeb ended up getting the Serenity Lock on Anna Jay. So there you go. Serena Deeb ended up winning the match. Post-match, Serena Deeb wouldn't let go of the Serenity Lock on Anna Jay. Mercedes Martinez ended up coming out to make the save. You know, Mercedes Martinez is the ROH Women's World Champion. So pretty much that was basically that. I have to say, Serena Deeb, she's going to possibly have the match with Mercedes Martinez, and the ROH Women's World Championship is going to be on the line. I could definitely see Serena Deeb will be your next ROH Women's World Champion. I think she's going to defeat Mercedes Martinez, and Serena Deeb will be the new ROH Women's World Champion. Then we went to Jade Cargill, Kiera Hogan, Layla Gray, her baddies, and Stokely Hathaway. Jade Cargill and Kiera Hogan were berating Layla Gray. Stokely Hathaway ended up telling her to trust him, and that they're going to be watching both Chris Statlander and Athena. So that's pretty much that. I think Jade Cargill and Kiera Hogan, they are not taking a liking to Layla Gray, and Layla Gray is just a interim baddie there, maybe until Red Velvet comes back from her injury. So I think when Red Velvet comes back, I think Jade Cargill and Kiera Hogan, Stokely Hathaway are going to kick Layla Gray out of her being a baddie. So that's my prediction. But the whole Jade Cargill and Athena, Chris Statlander, does Athena or Chris Statlander, get a shot at the TBS Championship? And whoever, gets the shot, I think it's going to be Athena, winning the TBS Championship. I think Athena's going to be the next TBS champion, and she's going to end Jade Cargill's undefeated streak. Chris Statlander, I don't see her being the TBS champion. I think they're going to give it to Athena. So then we saw Tay Conti Takeshita was visiting Anna Jay, which she was in the trainer's room. And Takeshita ended up telling her that she needs to start making better choices for her career. That's what she said to Anna Jay. Pretty much, that was basically that. And then we went to the main event, which was for the AEW World Tag Team Championship. The Bucks defend the titles against Powerhouse Hobbs, Ricky Starks, Keith Lee, and Swerve Strickland. This was a very good main event here. This was highly entertaining. And you had the match start off with Keith Lee and Matt Jackson. And I want to get into this because I'm going to have this article here by Ringside News that I found, because Keith Lee today ended up posting a cryptic tweet. So I'm going to show it right here for you all to check out. Then we went to Jade Cargill, Kiera Hogan, Layla Gray, her baddies, and Stokely Hathaway. Jade Cargill and Kiera Hogan were berating Layla Gray. Stokely Hathaway ended up telling her to trust him, and that they're going to be watching both Chris Statlander and Athena. So that's pretty much that. I think Jade Cargill and Kiera Hogan, they are not taking a liking to Layla Gray, and Layla Gray is just a interim baddie there, maybe until Red Velvet comes back from her injury. So I think when Red Velvet comes back, I think Jade Cargill and Kiera Hogan, Stokely Hathaway are going to kick Layla Gray out of her being a baddie. So that's my prediction. But the whole Jade Cargill and Athena, Chris Statlander, does Athena or Chris Statlander, get a shot at the TBS Championship? And whoever, gets the shot, I think it's going to be Athena, winning the TBS Championship. I think Athena's going to be the next TBS champion, and she's going to end Jade Cargill's undefeated streak. Chris Statlander, I don't see her being the TBS champion. I think they're going to give it to Athena. So then we saw Takeshita. Takeshita was visiting Anna Jay, which she was in the trainer's room. And Takeshita ended up telling her that she needs to start making better choices for her career. That's what she said to Anna Jay. Pretty much, that was basically that. And then we went to the main event, which was for the AEW World Tag Team Championship. The Bucks defend the titles against Powerhouse Hobbs, Ricky Starks, Keith Lee, and Swerve Strickland. This was a very good main event here. This was highly entertaining. Okay, so this is the tweet here. Again, this off of WrestlingInc.com. This is the tweet that Keith Lee put out Tuesday, at 8:25. He kept saying, "Got some very much less than stellar news today. No matter the results, tomorrow's match, which we saw tonight, belongs to my two brothers. It's all I can do until I return. Love you, boys." So Keith Lee tweeted that out on Tuesday night. And then Tony Khan this morning, he was on Busted Open Radio to give some clarification on the tweet that Keith Lee put out. So this is what Tony Khan said this morning on Busted Open Radio. He kept saying, Keith Lee is here. He is wrestling tonight. He had a family situation. I don't want to get into it. It's not my place. But Keith is here and here to wrestle, as I understand it. I can't really comment on what's happening, but we're going to support him through what is happening. So good on Tony Khan for not wanting to get into this private situation with Keith Lee. As he stated right there, Keith Lee had a family situation. So good on Tony Khan, like I said, for not wanting to get into that, and that he's going to support Keith Lee through what is happening. So that proves that Tony Khan is, a good man there. He actually cares for his talent there at AEW. So just wanted to touch up on this news. Keith Lee having a family situation. But I just wanted to touch up on that news with Keith Lee. Apparently, like I said there, it's a family situation. And that's why he tweeted that out on Tuesday night. That mysterious tweet. But getting into the match. The match started off with Keith Lee and Matt Jackson. And Matt Jackson ended up looking to avoid Keith Lee, but Keith Lee ended up almost catching Matt Jackson with a huge spin kick. So Matt Jackson ended up tagging in Nick. Swerve Strickland also came in. Nick ended up trying to send Swerve across the ring, and Swerve ended up cartwheeling out of it, and they then both leaped out of the ring. They ended up doing a kip up at the same time on the outside, which was cool. So we had Nick Jackson. He ended up slowing down the match with a submission. Ricky Starks then ended up coming in. He ended up going to Matt Jackson. He ended up grabbing Matt. And we had Ricky Starks end up meeting Nick on the top rope. And they both ended up slipping and got caught on the top rope. Matt then ended up hitting some Northern Light suplexes. And Keith Lee ended up tagging in. He tried to take down Hobbs and Ricky Starks at the same time. So we had Keith Lee end up sending both Starks and Hobbs, flying. Keith Lee then ended up hitting the double chop to Matt in the corner. Swerve followed up with an elbow to the back from the top rope. So we had Hobbs and Ricky Starks end up working together. Hobbs ended up throwing Matt Jackson onto Starks' knee. And Swerve ended up getting sent across the ring. Hobbs came back and hit a delayed vertical suplex to Swerve. And the Bucks then ended up taking in. They ended up hitting a flipping neck breaker, double team on Swerve. So Swerve ended up getting dropped by the Bucks. They ended up looking to go for a double low drop kick. Swerve ended up getting up and took down both the Bucks. So we had Keith Lee end up coming in. He ended up charging into each corner, hitting splashes. So Keith Lee ended up aiming to dive out of the ring, and Ricky Starks and Hobbs ended up stopping Keith Lee. So Matt Jackson ended up taking them out. So Nick ended up trying to dive out. He ended up getting caught by Keith Lee. Keith Lee ended up powerbombing Nick onto Matt's back. So later on, we had Ricky Starks almost stealing a roll-up on Swerve. And Nick Jackson was able to break up the pinfall. So we had, towards the end of the match, Keith Lee ended up taking out the Young Bucks. Hobbs ended up being set out. Starks ended up punching him to the ring apron. And he ended up in a headbutt, and Swerve ended up springboarding off Keith Lee's chest, which was an awesome spot there. So Swerve ended up springboarding off of Keith Lee's chest to take everyone out on the floor. So Starks was looking to go for the spear on Keith Lee, but Keith Lee ended up tackling Ricky Starks. Keith Lee then ended up diving out to the outside. Swerve connected with the stomp onto Ricky Starks, and Swerve ended up going for the cover. And there you go. Swerve Strickland and Keith Lee are your new AEW World Tag Team Champions, which is awesome. But now that Keith Lee and Swerve Strickland are the new champions, I'm like, the Bucks, being two-time AEW World Tag Team Champions, I'm thinking to myself, were the Bucks just transitional champions to just hold on to the titles, keep them warm for, Keith Lee and Swerve Strickland? because Keith Lee and Swerve, they're entertaining team together, and the crowd really enjoys them. And Swerve and Keith Lee, they're wrestling together, in the ring as a team. It's just really well. I just like the pairing between the both of them. So I'm just thinking to myself, the Bucks being the champions for 2 times, they were just transitional champions, in my opinion. So, but really happy for Swerve and Keith Lee, new AEW World Tag Team Champions. So, good on them. I like this. But overall, awesome match this was. Very entertaining. That spot with Swerve just bouncing off of Keith Lee's chest, springboarding off of Keith Lee's chest was great. And great wrestling here from these guys. Overall, week 1 of Fyter Fest was awesome. This was a good show. And I can't wait to see what week 2 next week will bring. But anyways, that's it for my review of tonight's Dynamite. Thank you all for watching. Hope you all enjoyed this review. Definitely give the video a thumbs up, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you all later.